What's good? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chuck. Happy Friday, my friends. Thank you very much for being here. We like to talk about primarily investing in sealed Pokemon product on this channel. And today we are doing a catch up on all Scarlet and Violet booster boxes, my thoughts on each, my plans for each. They're going to be pretty straightforward for the most part. And yeah, let's get into it. So, starting with Scarlet and Violet base set, I've always maintained that this is the best base set. I think most people agree with that. Nothing groundbreaking there. A little bit of pop, the Gardevoir coming out, some attention coming back into this set. You got Koraidon, Miraidon, Miriam. A lot of great cards in here. Riolu. But nothing crazy, right? Nothing crazy. Even though I do quite like the Gardevoir card. The thing about base is that you're not going to get rich off this box. And when we look at the quality of the sets across the era, I think we can all agree that it's arguably, at least in many people's eyes, the best era for booster boxes. Which I like Sword and Shield more, but as far as consistency goes, Scarlet and Violet is definitely there. And objectively, it's more popular than any other era. And a lot more product got ripped and continues to get ripped with rip and chippers. So when I think about base, I think about, and really all of the kind of low tier Scarlet and Violet sets, I all think they're good. I think they'll continue to go up. I think they're decent buys, but I'm putting my money elsewhere. Like for me, my priority right now is Prismatic and MSRP. All right. I know. I talked about in Prismatic, my last video, that MSRP is a great deal. I believe that's true because we're still getting a lot of opportunities to get products at MSRP. Okay, so just keep that in mind. ETBs, right? PCTBs, SPCs, all above market, all fine plays in my opinion, just for the record. So that's my priority for that as I mute my Discord very quickly. So yeah, I think base is good. I'm not buying it though. But at the same time, I do think it'll be at least $300 by the end of the year. I don't think there will be, I think there's potential that no box for Scarlet and Violet will be under $300 by the end of the year. I think actually the one box that could be under $300 potentially is Journey Together. Not because of the quality of the set, but just because of the potential reprint window, which we'll talk about. So let's move on. Paldea Evolved is a top 3 box of the era. There's no question about it. Strong Magikarp, whether you like it or not. Illustration rare. Shinji Kanda. Hard to grade, low pop in a 10, right? Whether you like it or not, Paldea Evolved is it's one of the most expensive sets. Now, one of the main drivers of that, aside from the Magikarp, is its age. So it has significant age on the other 2 contenders being Surging and Destined Rivals, of course. So it has a little bit safer risk to the downside, in my opinion. I do think the price is a little bit hot. $500 when I can get Sword and Shield boxes around the same. And it not being the top dog set gives me some pause, we have seen a lot of great sell-through on all of these boxes recently. Paldea Evolved has gotten a big pop. But am I buying it for $500? My thing is like I already have a couple boxes. I got them for super cheap. So, maybe that's an emotional thing for me. And that's important for me to factor. And to be honest with you guys, like I've always maintained as Paldea has gone up that it was still going to be a good buy. I said it was a good buy at $250. I said it was a good buy at $300. And that was objectively true. Although you could say that that was the case for literally anything, but I did get some heat for that at the time, to be fair. And here it is at $500. Silver Tempest, Astral Radiance. I wouldn't buy Astral Radiance over this box personally. But like Brilliant Stars, it's hard for me to justify putting that type of money, $500, into Paldea when I can have Brilliant Stars. Now, it could be a supply thing. I'm not saying it was short printed. I'm just saying it was more popular era, so more people wanted it, right? So at least recently in the last year, which wasn't really the case in 2023. And Brilliant kind of had the opposite effect where super popular on release and then everything kind of died for Pokemon after that. With that being said, you have to think about what is going to drop booster box prices. Reprints, like a market crash, like economically, which that's a whole discussion I'll probably talk about in my stream this weekend, because I do think there's a lot of risk in this market right now. Things are pretty volatile, and I think a lot of the economy is propped up by only a couple things. So, we all say that the 30th anniversary is when things will die. Maybe that's true, but I don't think you can be confident in predicting that in a very speculative asset class that is Pokemon. But that's a whole other side tangent. As far as Paldea Evolved goes, I don't see it going down anytime soon, and I think the age helps it a lot. I think if you buy it around $500 or less, $485 market, $450, you're going to do well in the future. And again, my philosophy with booster boxes is to buy and hold for the long term. These are not short term flips. I buy for multiple years, as I have been doing. That is how you see success in this hobby. I know it goes without saying, but a lot of people need to hear that. Need to be buying for a few years, and guess what? It's very boring. It's very boring. So, yeah, while I'm not super worried about the short-term potential, it is something worth considering. But trying to time the market is very difficult. You should just buy the sets that you think are the best. Paldea Evolved, bit complicated. I think it'll go up, but I'm not buying it right now, personally. That's how I feel. I have some other sets I'd rather buy in this era. Obsidian Flames, same thing. Not buying it at over $300. I understand the cards have gone up. I understand it has a Charizard. I just think there are better sets to invest in. And I have to stick to my fundamentals when it comes to putting my money into this space because, when things get bad, that's like Obsidian Flames do really bad. And I think a set with more, like, better chase cards, more value, higher EV when you're ripping those packs, is just more attractive to me. And I think Obsidian right now is just a little bit pricey for my liking. Over $300, $330. Like, I just think there are better opportunities in this market currently. I do recognize that Obsidian Flames has a Charizard. Look, I understand all the arguments for it, right? Small set, all that, but yeah, I just don't feel comfortable buying this box at this price. So I don't really own any Obsidian Flames, so it is what it is. But it'll continue to go up because of Charizard. But again, I would rather have my money in other boxes in this era. Now, as far as like early sets go that are kind of mid, I think Paradox is kind of mid. I know I meme on this channel that I really like it. I do actually really like it. I think it's solid, but it's undeniable that it's mid, objectively from an investment perspective, in my opinion. It's complicated because at $250 or under, I think it's actually a pretty good play. Any box is a good play for the right price, of course, but it's lacking that big chase card. I think the Groudon in a 10 is like pushing $600, which does help it a lot. It does. But raw, it's, still relatively cheap. It's not a Greninja, for instance. So, I think Paradox Rift still has a lot of supply out there, just under 100% sell-through rate, which is relatively low in the context of booster boxes in this market. And again, every time it hits a new high, a ton of product hits the market. And I actually have a damaged box that I got for really cheap, around MSRP or so. I'm probably, again, my plan is to not sell anything the rest of the year. I still feel very good about that. If that changes, I'll certainly let y'all know. But one of the first things I will be selling is this damaged Paradox Rift. It has the tiniest error in it, but it is significant enough to consider. And I probably won't get market price for it, and that's okay. And then I'll just apply that money into some other product, but know that I'll have made money on it. So I don't feel bad about it, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about is like the things that I want to sell are big collection boxes that take up a lot of space. And also like anything that's damaged, which this is, I think, the only damaged product that I own. Because I got it on Safari Zone and like this bundle with 2 Paradox and 1 Surging, and one of them came with a tiny hole in it. So it is what it is. But Paradox, I think sub 250 is still a fine buy. Again, like given its age, given the rotation in April, like I think it's relatively safe upside, but it's very capped. Like you're not gonna have growth like Destined Rivals. You're not gonna have growth like Surging Sparks or Twilight, but you're gonna have a nice, steady march up, kind of what we've been seeing over the last few months. So, um, expect good things for Paradox, but don't expect a lot if you're buying it. But for getting into the hobby at a relatively cheap price, I think this is one of the better values out there, in my opinion. Temporal is the box that we kind of all thought was the dark horse that we thought was being short printed. And that's true, I suppose. However, it's not being rotated out in April because this is the set where the cutoff is at after Paldean Fates. Um, I think actually there is some opportunity in Temporal Forces. I think a lot of the SIRs are pretty undervalued. Like I think Iron Leaves is something dollars. To me, that just feels super cheap given the quality of the card and how rare it is. But has Ghastly, Morty's Conviction, and the Gengar, and the kind of stupid evolved like ancient and future dogs. Not for me, but a lot of people like it, and it's relatively cheap. I don't see this as a great investment opportunity unless you get it cheap enough, of course. That's always the caveat. But for me, like I'm just not interested in the set. And if I don't like a set, I don't want to buy the set because it just means I don't care enough about the product. I'm probably less likely to hold on to it for a while. And that's ultimately the key that you need to be managing when you're making any purchase in this hobby is if I believe in it, I am more likely to stay invested. And if I'm more invested, I am more likely to realize a higher gain in the future. Now that does work the other way, where I love evolving so much, I almost never want to sell it. So that's going to be interesting in the next few years to consider. But you worry about that later. But yeah, Temporal Forces, not buying it right now. I think it's fine. But Twilight Masquerade, I think, is kind of an interesting contender, and it's probably one of the top boxes I would recommend buying right now. Going for about $300, $315, probably find one. 300, 285, 290, somewhere in that range. And I think honestly, Twilight Masquerade has surprised a lot of people. It has a very expensive Greninja, which is going up, especially with the announcement of the Mega Greninja, which we did call, although it was leaked for a while. I understand. But that is helping the set a lot. It has some decent cards in it with the trainers, Carmine pairing, and the Eevee, which is my personal favorite card of the set. Now, I don't think it's the best set in the world, but it is undeniable that people like it. And it has a Mega Chase card in it. And for me, it checks technically all of the boxes on paper to be an investable set. And it is over a year old at this point, which gives it a bonus point, in my opinion. And it's somewhat unlikely that we're going to see booster boxes for this set be reprinted. So this is one of the top boxes I'm looking at buying currently. If I sell that Paradox box, I would put it into something like Twilight. I'm constantly looking locally for deals, so if something pops up, I'm gonna make an offer. But Twilight, I think, will do well long term. I don't feel as good about it as a couple other sets, but it's definitely one of the top 4 boxes of the era, and I think there's a lot of good things that are going to come its way, given the quality of the cards, given the set value, given the fact that Pokemon doesn't print a lot of booster boxes kind of after the first few months. So we'll see, but I think it's definitely in the upper echelon, and I think actually right now Twilight Masquerade is a pretty good investment. Stellar Crown, I'm not buying. I don't like the set. I do like the Squirtle and the Bulbasaur. I know some people like the Trapagos. It's not for me. I just think the set is bad, and I'm not going to buy it. And I actually think at $250, I'd much rather have Paradox Rift. So, I'm just not really interested in even talking about it that much, just because, you know, again, if you get it at 220 or 225, like that's a different story. But I'm not expecting big things for Stellar Crown. I think it's a pretty bad set. So I'm just really not interested in buying it, and that's genuinely how I feel. Now, I think this is one of the best investments you can make as far as boxes go. It's top 3 box, arguably the second best box, I would say, um, in a lot of people's eyes. I think it's a better set than Paldea Evolved, but it does have the Magikarp, so I get it. But sub $300, I think Surging Sparks is just a great buy, all around. You know, we got more product back in June on Target. You were around and you saw. They actually released boxes around 180 bucks, and a lot of people picked them up. And that was pretty much one of the last kind of restocks that we got. And since then, it was, you know, a bit flat. You know, it's been pretty much the same price since January when it ran up. It was only a matter of time before it broke out. I was actually going to make a video on this at some point, and then I just never did because other things came up. But now it's pushing like $300 a box. It's selling pretty consistently in that 270, 280 range. For me, if you want exposure to a great booster box at a good price, sub $300, where we might not get any more boxes, again, nothing is guaranteed. But Surging, you know, it's about a year old, and what we know is that we don't get a ton of boxes after this point. So I think Surging with the Latias, Milotic, you know, I don't like the Pikachu, but some people do, and it is very expensive and pretty hard to pull. So, and it is Pikachu at the end of the day. Decent IRs, not the greatest set in the world in my opinion, but as far as SV goes, it's definitely up there. And I think given its price, you know, the main thing holding it back is its age and kind of speculation around reprints. But if you like Surging Sparks, you should be buying Surging Sparks, and I'd be looking personally at deals locally to find, and adding to my my Surging Sparks position, because I think it's a set that will perform very well in the future. So sub 300 bucks, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Now the thing is, I have to keep in mind that it might take a little bit of time for this to move. A lot of volume, to be fair. 307 sold in the last month, but currently 1,100 listed on TCG Player. Now what we know is that when sets make moves, supply can get eaten through very quickly. Look at 151 bundles. There were 9,000. Now there's significantly less. As price moves up, that's what you know, that's what you see happens. And the listed median price on TCG Player is $350. So, personally, I think this is one of the best booster boxes you can have from this era, and at the price, I think it's a great deal, personally. Journey Together, you know, I think is a pretty good set. It's kind of middle of the road, maybe a little bit better because it's got Clefairy, Salamence, which I really like. You know, sub $250 long term, you're going to be doing pretty well on this. But Journey Together and Destined Rivals are both the two sets that I think have the most reprint potential, just because we haven't really seen a ton yet. But, you know, it comes with that Reshiram promo, which is amazing. And later SV sets moving into like the Mega block. I think the promos are really going to help these a lot, just to like kind of bolster its baseline, you know, given the value of the card. And there's still quite a good amount of volume, you know, 50%. It's not the most like popular set, but I don't think people are looking at Journey Together right now as like a place that they want to park a bunch of money in. And I think it's because of that speculation. But as time goes on and we get less opportunities for boxes, this is going to be a set that's going to make probably pretty rapid moves. Personally, not buying Journey Together. I have a couple boxes. I'm happy to have them, but I'm not looking to buy Journey Together, and I'd rather have Surging. It's a better set for the long haul. And when we think about long-term investing, we have to talk about Destined Rivals. I know the set is very expensive, but the demand is crazy for it. It has to be noted. It is easily the best booster box of the era. All right. And if you think about long-term holds, it's a tough pill to swallow because, you know, when you consider Evolving Skies at $400 and all the other boxes were pretty much $140 from, you know, Sword and Shield, felt like a big jump. felt like a huge jump. But actually, the ROI of Evolving Skies was higher than most of those sets, if not all of those sets. It is now selling for $3,000. So selling a damaged Paradox box and putting it towards something like Surging or Destined Rivals in this case, I think is a pretty great play because you're going to have an higher ROI in the future. There's just no doubt about it. In a few years from now, I think when you look at the price of Destined Rivals at $375, you look at the price of a box like Temporal Forces at $240, you know, that $150 probably isn't going to make too big of a difference. You know, I think there's still plenty of potential to get more boxes injected into the market. I definitely think we're going to get bundles and ETBs and ancillary products. But there hasn't been a lot of evidence to suggest that the Pokemon Company has switched up their tune on booster boxes. And that is why box price is where it's at now. If you're a long-term investor, I think dollar cost averaging into this particular booster box will probably serve you well. Now, when I think about opportunity in the market, I'm a little bit more interested in something like Prismatic being a special set. Having access to products at MSRP more frequently is a bit more attractive to me. But again, I think booster boxes are king, and this is the best one of the era. And personally, I'm looking to increase my position. And it has seen a little bit of a downtick recently. There's quite a bit of support around 375. Hasn't quite pushed through 400 yet. But it probably will. Because as long as we don't get boxes, it will continue to go up. Demand is just too high for this set. It's too good. Set value's high. The chase cards are great. Or when anybody says it's a high quality set, Giovanni Mewtwo on the box. Side note, pretty cool. I do wish they made booster boxes look cool. Can we make them cool again? I really wish they would, but look, Destined Rivals, it's expensive. I understand. There might be higher ROI plays than something like Prismatic right now, but I think it's going to be a very expensive box in a couple of years, 2 to 3 years time, and probably going to look back and wish I had more booster boxes in particular. So the side quest for Destined Rivals is still on. If you don't know what that is, you probably do know what that is because if you're still watching, you've probably seen me talk about it. Getting Destined Rivals products at MSRP, throwing them in a box. That's kind of my plan. Kind of a fun little thing I do to stay interested in the set, I guess. But yeah, I want more booster boxes. Maybe I'll trade some of those in for towards a box. So we'll see. But that's how I feel. I think Surging Sparks, Twilight Masquerade, and Destined Rivals are the 3 best boxes to invest in. Everything else is probably fine. I think Surging is the best value. Twilight has value. But I think Destined is the box that I really want to be in. So I'll be looking for deals locally. If I can make something happen, I certainly will. And if there's ever a reprint, I'm going to try to get as many as I can. Cases would be ideal, of course. So let me know what you guys think down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on these booster boxes in this era. Good to do a check-in like this every now and then. Just talk about like what I would be investing in. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts. Pretty clear that the best sets are gonna have a higher ROI. So you kind of want to be in those. But again, every set is investable for one reason or another, and at the right price. So appreciate you watching. Discord link down below if you'd like to join and continue the discussion. We always do. And I also opened up my members, so if you'd like to support the channel, it's a great way to do it. You get a members only chat in the Discord. Nothing too crazy, mostly just to support, and I do really appreciate everybody you are. So yeah, guys, that's all I got for you today. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to make a video on the EV of opening packs, expected value opening packs, and how that ties into sets like Destined Rivals, which, spoiler alert, has a pretty high EV, especially if you get it, at MSRP, like these 10s I got behind me, which you can't see. So yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you very soon in the next one. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.